Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Overrun Podcast. My name is Ed Bowder.
Hey, I'm Dan Schwester.
And today we
badge 502. Hi.
and I'm here too.
Oh yeah, he's
today
here
on
too.
Today on the show we have our friend Anthony Christian, badge 502 on all forms of social media. Badge, how we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Not too bad, man. We're happy to have you on the show. We're going to talk about how social media affects EMS in medicine. Something I do want to mention, Badge and I met at a conference in November of last year. He's become a good friend to us and to the show, so thanks for all of that. But a big point, too, when you go to conferences, meet people, talk to them, you can learn a lot of really interesting things from people at conferences. So,
that's so
Badge,
true.
let's talk about how social media affects EMS. First of all, for those who are uninitiated to who Anthony Christian and Badge 502 is on social media, welcome to 2025. Badge is seen on all different forms of social media, giving different education, different insights, and some of the better observed corners of the internet as well.
That's one way of putting it.
It's one way of talking about what I do, but talk to us a little bit about how we started here on social media, what you do, and kind of how we landed here, Badge.
So guys, thanks so much for having me. Content creation was something just, I imagine, like most people, I just kind of fell into it. It was when I started getting into EMS, and it was a way to alleviate a lot of different types of stresses that we were going under. It was my first few moments in EMS, and I'm absorbing a lot of different things. I'm learning what I can take and what I can't take. And one of the ways that I decided that I wanted to have a little bit of levity during stressful days or stressful shifts was to start creating content. And if it made other people laugh, that was great. I liked that idea too. But, it was really for me just to kind of be goofy and be able to just sort of take a little bit of the stress off of the day. I was just making goofy videos around the squad and just having a lot of fun and just inviting people into it and just trying to take a little bit of that edge off of what we were learning. I was also going through, at the same time as becoming an EMT, I was becoming a 911 dispatcher. So I was getting it from both ends. And it was really just a lot of the same type of environment that I was in. So I wanted something that was going to kind of open up a little bit of an area of levity for me. One day I made, my posts were getting 500 likes, as you would imagine, and one day I got super lucky. I saw something that was funny to me. It was this weird serpentine gold thing that was like this. I'm like, that looks, not to put too fine a point on it, I'm like, but that looks oddly phallic. I made a video where I had that in the beginning. I stitched myself at the end. I just shook my head and said no because I knew what people would think. I did what I always did. At 7 o'clock I posted it, went to bed. That was the end of that. And then at, 3 o'clock in the morning, my buddy blew my phone up and he said, hey, listen, man, you need to get on your TikTok account because your video is exploding right now. And I was like, oh, well, my other videos had 500 views. So what's this one have 2,000? I mean, that's amazing. But I got on there. It had 750,000 views in just a few hours. And,
Wow.
sort of like the initiative do, they rinse, repeat. You kind of stick with the same modes, stick with what works for you. And I was able to grow that account. And it went from, that day, I think I went from 2,000 followers to somewhere in the realm of 26,000 followers. And I got, it's super lucky. It's something that I never expected, something that I don't know that I ever could have anticipated. But I was incredibly blessed to have it happen, and I built on it. And from there, we've structured it to be an outlet for mental health. We've structured it to be an outlet for levity. We've structured it to be an outsource for community engagement and community service. So it's been just something that I'm incredibly lucky to be able to be a part of.
I think one of the funniest things that's happened since you kind of blew up is the comments that people now leave are like, "Where's the ambulance guy? I need it
everywhere.
I need
everywhere.
I need that paramedic guy to tell me what not to do."
Yeah, first off, if you need me to tell you that,
this sounds like a job for him. He needs to be here.
You do not even want to know what my tag section looks like. It just gets obliterated. And what's funny is that's how I choose my videos. I've managed to, the Badge 502 community tags me in all of these things. And the best way that I can find material to make these videos is I go to my tags. I do a quick couple scrolls like this, and whichever picture looks like it's appearing the most, hit that video. I'm like, that's absolutely ridiculous. Check. And that's how we cultivate. It's completely crowdsourced. The crowd knows what they want to see, so I go ahead and we make it for them.
Why? When you were a child, did you plan on being the influencer of not inserting things into themselves? Was that we come from a long line of social?
I wrote it in my I wrote it in my high school notes, at the end of my yearbook.
Very
No,
sweet.
I've had so many
I'll
different.
tell you what, I was voted most likely to tell people to not insert things into
That was it.
themselves.
That was the only superlative I wanted, which was freaking weird, man. Those things are legitimate. But no, I mean, I've had a couple different entries into social media. I tried a motorcycle page. I had a really cool motorcycle page with a lot of cool photography. I had a firearms page. I had a page for my dogs. I had just a home page and a bunch of stuff that was like going on in life. I had a fitness page and a Tough Mudder and Spartan page, and this is the one, the one that took off.
But it's interesting that he did. So, but I've also watched like the social media thing and how things have taken off. Why do you think it hits so hard with EMS clinicians, like with EMTs and paramedics? What's with like the TikTok and the little things and the short bursts, and why do you think it's resonating so much with the community?
So what I see is a lot of voiceovers where they'll act out certain voices while audio's playing in the background, and it's so funny because a lot of things in everyday life can relate to EMS. If you manipulate it in that way, and it's just really cool to see how people interpret things. There's a lot of creators out there who do these types of voiceovers that are just knockdown, drag out, hilarious. Yeah, I have the creators that come to mind are obviously like your fire department chronicles who do their type of thing, and the firefighter Lance and all these guys. They do just amazing voiceovers, and it relates to what you go through in a way where it's like, I can't say this to my patients, but that's not a patient, that's a camera, so I can say this, and it's a really cool way to be able to just be like, this is what we go through. This is legitimate. It's just not a real person, and it works out really well. It translates well.
And we've had Jason Patton on the show previously, kind of having a similar discussion. Jason Patton from Fire Department Chronicles, and I think one of the best things that he kind of captures, or what that whole team over there is capturing, is almost that kind of like that internal monologue, right? Where one of the best things that Fire Department Chronicles will do is, aside from their community outreach and all that kind of stuff, is kind of showing like like real things that we've seen on scene, and walking up, they kind of capture that almost like the provider standpoint, where they'll have one where like, are you all right? They're like, oh, I got a little bit of a headache, and I've got like a piece of rebar sticking out of my arm.
Yeah,
Like that,
exactly.
like those kind of things. I think it's nice to have an avenue where we can kind of have that pressure valve sort of release. But and we've kind of talked about this off air a bunch, but there is kind of an interesting kind of humor and mental health tie-in that goes into all of this. I don't know that as an industry we're very good at kind of relieving tension that way.
Oh, we're the worst.
I think for a long time we kind of
What gives you that idea?
you can't be funny, right? But I think a lot of times it was one of those like you can't be funny on social media because someone will watch it and then they're going to sue you. I think we're obviously kind of getting away from that, but talk to us a little bit about how this new platform has kind of opened up avenues for mental health, and how education and comedy kind of all tie in together.
So comedy is, in my personal opinion, comedy is the best form of mental health. If you spend your entire day in a really stressful environment, there's no better way than just to have a giggle. The content that I put out is very elongated. It's very wordy. I like to think that it takes your mind off of things and lets you kind of fall into the content a little bit better than me just doing, say like a voiceover or something like that. Mental health is everything. Mental health and men's health is absolutely everything. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you are the absolute only you that you have. So you need to take care of yourself. And one of the best ways you can do that is by finding things that you enjoy, even if you're in the middle of something that you don't. And for me, humor was one of the keys. I was able to make content with my friends. I was able to just de-stress for a little bit. One of the biggest reasons why I went for my EMT and I ended up in 911 emergency medical dispatching, but I didn't go for my paramedic, a lot of people ask me, is because I didn't necessarily know that after 12 hours of all bad calls that my mental health would be as stable as it should be. For those of you who don't know, medics don't go to good calls, right? Medics go to bad calls. I go to little Johnny with the skin knee because he fell off his bike and he's crying and holding his knee, and I get to put a little happy face Band-Aid on it. Medics don't go to that. Medics go to everything bad. If they're going to something good, I get rid of them. So I didn't necessarily know that was going to be the avenue for me. So being able to build on what I am doing and being able to inflict a little bit of humor into it, I thought that was probably one of the best things for my mental health. And it has been. I've always said, and I stand by this, this is the most fun thing that I do. This is by far, oh, it's always fun. Whenever I make content, whether it's sitting at the computer behind me or if I'm on an ambulance, I don't record where I work, but whenever I make my way over to the ambulance and I record something there, it's always fun. And I tell people all the time, the day it stops being fun for me, I'll burn the whole thing to the ground. This is always first and foremost going to be a way for me to express myself and relax. And it's just a great avenue. It's a great avenue. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. No notes.
Would recommend. So you mentioned jumping into your truck to actually record some of the content. I do want to talk about that because it seems that, and again, there's all these different social media policies, just in different departments, but we're kind of moving into a place where, and this has been an issue with the whole FOMED movement, right? Where, going back to, 2011, 2012, where, physicians started posting things online, like, here's an interesting paper that you might not have access to. And certainly that's kind of blown up. There's estimates that 63% of clinicians have a social media policy at their agency. About 15% of agencies have banned social media at work from professional use. And we've discussed this previously, where there's almost like these societal overcorrections, right? Where a department will say, like,
very reactive,
right? Where, okay, well, no, there's a social media policy. I think that could be bad. So no, we don't do that. And I think, and again, we've had shows about this. We've all kind of talked about this, where it's easier to say, you know what, no one gets to do anything. We're going to ruin all the fun because, we're worried about whatever the brand of, the hospital system or whatever. So I'm interested in, when you decide what to post or how to go through that. I guess the first question is, what are your opinions on social media policies? Obviously, your departments have been very cooperative with you. And how do we decide, I guess, what to post? Give us a little like policy versus practice here. Have you made videos and been like, I don't really know that's something I need to go out, but talk to us a little bit about that.
So first and foremost, you have to understand that where you work is your livelihood. All right. That is what keeps your lights on. That is what keeps your water running. All right. You need to be mindful of that. I've been very lucky that my agencies are very good about what I do. I don't record where I work. That's a huge thing for me. If I can give anybody type of any benefit of I guess, of constructive possibilities, do your best not to record where you work. If you go to my earlier videos, my department was in that. I no longer work there. So that's a plus. As far as the content that you put out, you need to be mindful. You absolutely need to be mindful, because no matter what you do, there's always going to be something who's going to yuck the yum. And sometimes I've seen the videos. There's actually a recent one, a recent video where there's a nurse. You guys may have seen it. There was a nurse that said that she flexed her nurse. You ever see this? Have you seen the flexed my nurse?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw the.
Yes,
she goes, I was on an ambulance and I didn't like the way the provider was being too passive, and she didn't want to let me on the ambulance, and so I flexed this, and I was like, no, you're gonna let me do this. First of all, let me tell you, if anybody ever did that on my ambulance, you'd be walking to the hospital. All right, there's no chance you'd be in my ambulance. There's zero chance, 0.0. All notes. But you need to be mindful, because that creator she had a TikTok page, she had an Instagram page, both of those pages are down, and because she got absolutely demolished. And that's happened several times. So you do have to be mindful about what you post, because first off, the internet's forever. All right. You need to be very mindful about what you post. There's definitely been times where I've where I've created a video and I'm like, this is really funny, but you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. That's a little much. It was a little too close to the chest, a little too close to maybe the dark humor chest, or too close. And it's just like, you know what? Class it up a little bit. That wasn't it, And you just have to be cognizant of that, because when you put it out there, you are no longer making it for you. Once you put it out there, it's for everybody to watch. And if people don't like it, they're not going to like it. And you just got to be really mindful of that. And they're going to let you know. Promise you, they'll let you know.
And social media does have that toxic side to it that, it can suck you in, and, you
Keyboard
can
warriors.
be doom scrolling and getting into it with people, and, you don't think about it, but yeah, it's a problem. I mean, I've fallen to it. I think everybody slipped once or twice, right?
Oh, I'm a perpetual slipper. I go after people. I don't mind. You look at my go after him.
All props to Charlie Murphy. You are a habitual line stepper. Um, but I think that also brings into
Habitual
another thing.
sidestep.
Like, do you think maybe it's a little too rigid? Like, should posting a spicy meme or should posting, you know, the isolated comment or whatever, is that really a hanging offense? We know for a lot of people it is, but should it be? What do you think about that?
There, so we have to be cognizant of the fact that while things like dark humor are very common, in fact, for us in EMS and in any part of the first responder community, it's not dark humor; it's humor, right? For everybody else,
it's also like it's also kind of a prerequisite at this point.
yeah, you know, it's not dark humor; it's humor because not for nothing, if you go to something that's absolutely off the wall crazy and you can't make a joke about it at some point, you're gonna drive yourself crazy. You're absolutely, if you don't find a little bit of levity in everything that you do in life, you're going to drive yourself crazy. That being said, not everybody understands that. All right. Not everybody understands that if I post a meme that I think is hilarious, it's not always going to resonate with everybody else. And when you put it out there, you're putting it out for everybody. So, should you be chastised for it? Should you be punished for it? That's kind of a gray area. I guess it sort of depends on what you put out there. But I can tell you that I've had very close friend creators that have gotten demolished because of some stuff that they've put out there. And you just got to be really careful about that. If, as far as the department goes, the department will have final say on what they find offensive, right? Because what are you going to say? They're going to say, I find it offensive. You're going to say, I don't. And they're going to say, well, that's
No, you
fantastic.
don't.
I do. They're going to say, I do. And you're like, well, okay. And that's going to be it.
You can add this little footnote. You're like, hey, if you find this offensive, no, you don't.
But I think you make some pretty good points here. First is anonymization or depersonalization of anything you put on the internet socially or even in this world, like when we're talking about medicine and stuff, nobody should be able to figure out how or where or who these people are. It should just be totally generic.
Yeah.
That's
I went to this
something
house
that
at 123 Sesame Street in Springfield, Missouri.
exactly. Yeah,
Can't do that.
exactly. Depersonalization, cutting down the any kind of topic that might identify anything. I remember the early days of FOAMed, people would be putting like CT scans up with people's information and 12 leads with the person's name or the date and time on it in the
Don't do that.
hospital. And I'm like, do not do that. But I mean, I'm going back to like 2010, 2011, like when it was the Wild West.
People only had one lung back then. Jesus.
Well, we used to think that, illness was caused by evil spirits, but we now knew at the time that it was an imbalance of bodily humors.
Who'd have thought it was because I ate 4 boxes of donuts?
Yeah, for like 20 years. But yeah, like, that's a very important thing. Like, nobody should know where you work. I mean, listen, on this show, people know us and they know the show. Our management knows the show, but we don't talk about our place. We don't criticize. Anything that's patient information gets anonymized, and even to the point where you probably shouldn't be talking. I personally don't think, like, you shouldn't be talking about a case that happened last week. It's too easy for somebody to trace back.
Yeah.
If you're going to bring up a case summary, it's got to be something that's happened a couple of years ago, so nobody knows. You don't want people.
You want to know the easiest way to get around that? The easiest way to get around all of that? Make it up.
Yeah, lie.
Make it up. I've made up. Listen, I've made up. There are so many stories that I've made up that are just ridiculous. I made up a story about someone jumping out of the back of an ambulance, but I made it in a dramatic way, so nobody could. You have to know that that's not true. Like, if you don't, and also, you're not going.
But also,
that's good. That's a good point.
When we talk about like making stuff like that up, and again, I think it's probably because it's framed a little bit as education, right? Where there's sort of like this almost like puritanical expectation that, this is a real story. This is what happened to you, whatever, which isn't, we don't hold that standard, by the way, in a lot of different classroom settings and whatever else. When every time we complain about people telling war stories, it's like, I don't know that that's true, but using
I did.
this type of outlet as an education platform, you can use those type of examples where it's like, listen, it doesn't really matter if I had this patient Steve Jones who jumped out the back of an ambulance, right? You can use kind of like, over my career I've had X patients who have done this, so here's an imaginary scenario where Nurse Gwenny is great at this online,
Nurse
where
Gwenny's ridiculous.
like
Yeah, she does
5
it really
minutes,
well.
like taking 5 minutes to be like, hey, you're about to jump into an aircraft, do you know how to zero out an art line? Like that kind of stuff, where this works. It takes 5 minutes, in and out, boom, done. um
Yeah.
but what I think is important, kind of getting back to the employment thing, is we are kind of in this world where, if you apply for a job, right, you can have people like your name will come up, right, in the search. So you want to make sure that your
Yeah,
name and
They're gonna
your
Google you.
personal brand are tied
for
to
sure.
good and important things. But we also kind of have this outlet where, you look at something like the Stop the Bleed campaign, right, where
Sure.
a bunch of us decided that we're going to start telling people, like, hey, if someone's bleeding, stop it, and it'll
Stop
save
the bleed.
people's lives. Which, there's plenty of frustrations where we can do it for Stop the Bleed, but we can't seem to get it done for cardiac arrest. um that's kind of one of the issues there. But I guess, is there a way, or I guess in your mind, is there a clear delineation between what's educational and what's fun, or what is, just, I happen to be an EMT in my off time and I'm just kind of creating this own content? Because I think we kind of have this idea where, if I turn into Badge 502's channel, I'm watching Anthony's real life. This is what he is actually doing all the time, and I'm not convinced that's always the case.
That is not the okay. That's so of my content.
No,
I've only ever
there's
had
I
that
do
happen.
I do
I've only
other
ever had that
stuff
happen
too.
one time. Yeah, I've only ever had that happen one time. Thankfully, it wasn't anywhere near as dramatic as some of the other things that I've had, but it was, it was definitely something. That was definitely where it wasn't supposed to be. It was definitely stuck there. So that's there is inspiration for the alchemy, if you will, but
It does happen.
it happens. It's not a 3 foot statue of Barbara Streisand, but it is what it is. But I there's a
So
place
that's where
for
the
the,
St. Christopher on the dashboard of the car
yeah. Why was
went.
why was it in the why was it in the bathroom? Like, who does that? But like, there's a room for everything on the internet, right? For the most part, within reason, right? So education, once you grow a platform, you have to understand that people are listening to you. Like, people hear you. I get emails all the time for so many different things. Can you do a video on this? Can you? And I do my best to accommodate that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get the same email saying, can you make a video of this? And it's a Corona bottle. It is what it is. It's the nature of the beast that we've created here at Badge 502 and 502 Media LLC. But we have people that want to see more education. We have people that want to see more humor, and there's a place for both of it. And the blessing about having a platform like this is that people will tune in and listen. So when I do a video about what it's like to run the lights and sirens, or when I do a video about what it's
Yeah.
like to how can people help before we get on scene, how can they help us help them by either, make sure your steps are shoveled, make sure there's a path to the patient, make sure that there's somebody, there's so many different people
Yeah.
to dig into that. And there's a spot for both. You really have the ability
Yeah,
to
and I agree with
amalgamate
that.
your work.
You're making a great point here, is that, for all the toxicity and the potential for harm, there is a real potential for good with social media and with the
Sure.
types of things that you're doing or people are doing out in the field. Like we talked about Nurse Gwenny, Andrew Fisher was doing this for a while. A lot of these like real short 3 to 5 minute hits. And I think you're seeing people actually benefit from it. And the whole FOMED movement has really educated the population. It's really been a positive because, like you said, oh, let me go over art line. I want to go over our art line today. So you can hit up Nurse Gwenny. Yeah, I want to look at how to do this, or, it's all out there at your fingertips. Stuff that when I started medic school, we never had access to journals. We never had access to papers
Sure.
or things like
Sure.
that.
The internet's a big place now. It's a much
And
bigger place than
now
when we were young.
if I need a paper or I want to look something up, it's there, and I've got expert level stuff. There's a real positive for that, and there's a real positive to our industry and our profession for people that can curate that and bring it forward. But great power comes great responsibility. You got to do it on the other end too.
Mhm. What I've noticed, and it's probably the email or the direct message that I get, if not the most, definitely up there, is my son now wants to get into EMS because he saw your content. My son now wants to
That's
do
cool.
this. My daughter was taking a route where she was not doing well in school, and now she's really motivated because she wants to become a medic. And just thank you. I have it's maybe it's a little bit self gratifying, but I have an entire folder that I've set up on that. And every time I have
No,
feeling a
no,
little feel
those are
you know,
worthwhile.
every
Absolutely.
time I feel like I'm little, little poo pooing on myself, which listen, that happens to everybody, right? Everybody has
Yep.
those moments where you're like, man, what am I doing? Everybody has those moments. I go right to that folder and I just start scanning through it. It's some of the most
Awesome.
reassuring and heart tugging moments. And I've talked to all of them. I've had long conversations with them. I've then talked to the kids who are, anywhere between 16 and 25 who are, they're in high school, they're going through college, and it's amazingly gratifying. So one of the things that I've noticed, aside from people wanting to get an education through your content, is just people wanting to get into it in the first place, which has been so motivating and so gratifying.
I'm never
Yeah,
gonna
another
get over
interesting.
the like whenever I'm feeling down on myself, I go downstairs and read my folder of names.
Ed, can we not talk about folders and names and files this week?
Nerd.
But that also brings up the other side of FOMED, which is there are people out there with really great intentions putting out fantastic material. There are also people out there putting really sketchy, questionable stuff out that is either scientifically not proven or just that falls into that kind of smarmy, salty medic kind of attitude
Hmm.
thing.
Salty medics are huge, and they do well too on the internet.
They do. I mean, some of them again are funny, but for the people that are putting out like the knowingly bad information or the stuff that's just not good for people to learn. We have like you have two options here. You can either ignore it or you can go after it and debunk it. And I've seen both. Is that a thing that you do? How do you
So
choose? What do you look at? Because we've gotten into this too with other things. I wanted to hear your take, and then Ed, we can talk about like that. The person last year at the who put the book out that had all the issues
Oh
with the
yeah,
medic.
okay,
Remember that one?
yep.
But
that
yeah,
actually
I
sounds
want to
vaguely
get your
familiar.
take on it.
Um, so when you put out content, you just have to kind of understand that some people will take what you say as gospel, you know, and you just have to be really careful on how you address things. The education aspect of it is great, but you also have to understand that you are doing this for 30 years in the medic field, and there's people who are doing this for 2 years in the medic field, and they don't feel the way you feel. And it's with respect and due respect to everybody who's been doing that career and probably any career for 30 plus years, you're going to lose a little bit of that sympathy. You're going to lose a little bit of that empathy. The job becomes a job. It becomes pushing paper. It becomes washing fences. It's whatever. You just compartmentalize so much that it's not to you what it started out to be. And there's nothing wrong with compartmentalizing, but you also have to understand that there's people out here that are doing this fresh, and they're going to have a difference of opinion. And then when that difference of opinion comes up and they start arguing back and forth, that doesn't really help the narrative. That just makes it seem
Yeah.
like there's incredible discourse, and there's not incredible discourse. You guys are saying the same thing, but you're doing it from two different ends of the spectrum. And it's not that you don't care, it's that you care differently now. And you just have to be mindful of that. Again, the internet is forever. So you got to be really careful with how you present things and how you put things out. And if you want to be able to mold young minds, and if you really want to be educational, do it from a standpoint of everybody. Do it the best you can from the point of everybody. Because if you're going to go out there and say, I don't know, for instance, in cardiac arrest, this, and this. Well, Johnny, who just got out of medic school, was taught something completely different than what you just said.
Right.
So you have to be
Right.
mindful of that. And you're not talking to 200, you're not talking to the 25,000 followers that you have. You're talking to 6 billion people in the world. So you just have to be
Yeah.
mindful of the fact that other
Interesting.
people are watching
That's
your
a good
videos.
point. Anybody can access your stuff.
Mhm.
The reference I was making, you probably remember, it was last year at one of the big conferences. Somebody used the
Mhm.
opportunity to speak to plug their review
That was
book, or it
that
was
was
an
dopey.
educational thing.
That went
And
real bad.
listen, it went real bad because of one person. I don't remember her name, but bless her, because this woman sat on a plane for 6 hours and went and raw dogged this entire
Mhm.
manual with a
Yep.
highlighter, like all the incorrect stuff, all
Yep.
the stuff, all the wrong, all the unprofessional stuff,
Oh,
and
man.
put it out over a series of tweets.
I forgot about that.
And
That was so
I
bad.
don't, I, this guy got ruined. I mean,
Mhm.
This was, and
just,
but
this was the
this
Edmund Fitzgerald of EMS. Like,
It
but
was
this is
bad.
important though, because this ties into everything that we're talking about, right? Where, you know, it is true that everything everything lasts forever, right? This is but we talked about
Yep.
this story last year. We had Jimmy Apple, EMS Avenger, on to talk about this,
Love Jimmy.
where, you know, you had a scenario where someone went up, said a lot of stuff. It could have just stopped there. 20 years ago it would have,
Mhm.
right? And now, you know, from this I'll air quote original author standpoint, you know, he went out, said his stuff, and got undressed, right? So
Yeah,
even
yeah, legitimately.
whatever
His
he wants
jock
to
is in the
do
rafters.
is done. Yeah, exactly. Right. So that like that's done. That's over now, right? And that's something that's going to follow him for forever. And
Mhm.
you know, he's not the only example. I'm not trying to just isolate one person. There's a million of these examples, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you
I've
could
been
be a
beat up.
great,
I've been beat up on the internet. 100%.
yeah,
I've been absolutely
and
demolished on the internet.
it
Rightly so.
happens, right? But it's where we kind of have this. The note that we have on the rundown is infodemics, which was I kind of like that little term where, you know, I think again 25 years ago we had this kind of dearth of information, where
Mhm.
now in 2025 it almost feels like there's too much, and it can be very easy to kind of get lost in the sauce, lost in the weeds of,
Sure.
you know, what is good data, what's bad data, what's good information, what's bad information. And I think that one of the hardest things that we have to do as, you know, as knowledge translators, is,
I
you
like
know,
that.
keep that
Knowledge translators. I
knowledge
like that.
translator like that,
I
is
do
kind
like
of,
that.
you know, make those good faith arguments where it like, and it could be like, listen, man, I don't know, I'm just reading what people who do know say,
Mhm.
right? Where like I didn't do the research, but a bunch of doctors who have been doing this for 50 years did.
Yeah, they wrote a
So,
book.
you
Yeah,
know,
I say that. I say
I
that a
like their
lot.
opinion on that, you know, where I think that having that kind of that high index of suspicion, right? And, you know, kind of really critically thinking through what's good and what's bad information is vitally important. But we're kind of coming up on the end here, but I want to kind of go through this really quick lightning round with you here, Badge. However you want to work it, hot, warm, cold. I do want to hear the defense of what your stance is here, but a couple little like hot topic stuff for EMS we want to get through. What's your take on agency mandated training? Like, you must take these classes this time.
So agency mandated training tends to cycle around things that are either hot in the presses. So for instance, we have agency mandated training around that circles around children with disabilities, right? We have agency mandated training around pathogens. We have agency mandated training around hazmat. We have all these different trainings, and most of them are meant for you. They're meant to help you as a person. Either A, not get sick, B, not get stupid, and 3, not get sued, right? So when you end up having
Oh
agency
man, can we
mandated,
make that into a shirt? Don't get sick, don't get stupid, don't get sued. That, I mean,
want me to do it? I have a
Oh,
merch store.
I'm telling
so
you.
good.
Want me to do it, guys?
Just cut us
Badge502.com.
in.
Click on the merch store.
Just cut.
um,
Just cut us in a bit. Help us out. All right.
that's it. Right. Somebody write that down for me. Nurse.
I'm just talking. You know, a
Uh,
couple boxes of ZD, Badge. Come on, help us out.
I mean, my microphone's sitting on a box of frosted minis right now. So I mean, why not?
Nice.
So agency mandated training is not, in my opinion, personally, not the worst thing in the world. I think it's one of those like low hanging fruit type deals that if you have a problem with training, you know, you're either trying not to better yourself or you're trying to not learn a little bit further. And it'd be beneficial if there was in some way tied to an overall benefit, like if things counted for CEs or things like that. That would be great, you know. But you know, overall, I have zero problem with enhancing your skill set and enhancing your knowledge base. So I've never had a problem with agency training.
How do we feel about blurring on scene photos, anonymizing things?
Please
I guess
do
a little
that.
bit more.
Please do that. Please do that. Just because. So I'll give you for instance. You see a lot of body cam footage from law enforcement, and people beg in the comments, beg, where can I see the uncensored videos? Listen, I get it. I get it. I get it. You don't want to be exposed to that. There's reasons why we do this and that everybody else doesn't
Right.
have to do this. All right. for the respect of the people that things have happened to, for the respect of the family surrounding them, for the respect of yourself, because you don't want to be involved in that. And if you want to be involved in that, freaking go get involved in it. Freaking take the classes, just go do it. Listen, the more of us, the merrier. All right. If I don't have to work 60-hour work weeks, let's get it.
Right. Yeah.
Join
Your
up.
local EMS agency
I have
will send you for free.
yeah. I have an application for you, and I don't care if you live in freaking Tuscaloosa. Just get out here.
Can you fly up for games? Like,
but there's a respect issue that respect goes a long way.
there's
if you
there's
have
also
on-scene
really
footage,
important thing to remember that, in a lot of states now, publishing this stuff is illegal. You, especially
Big
as an
time.
emergency
Big
responder,
time.
you are not allowed to do this. I know in our state where the three of us are, it is actually an indictable offense. It's a felony. You can go to
I don't know
jail
what it is
for it.
here, but I bet. Yeah, it's bad news.
I would be very, very cautious, and this is something you definitely need to look up. And again, anonymize. You can't do enough.
Yeah, true.
And
if you're a bystander
honestly,
on
you might be
scene, it is
better
what
off
it is.
not
But
doing it.
yeah, if you're a
You might
bystander
be
on
better off.
scene, you can do whatever you want. You're not
Right.
beholden to anything.
Right.
But if you're a provider, you're out of your mind. Like,
We're not
at some
civilians
point,
anymore. So
at some point, have you not just looked at something and you're like, what were you thinking? Like, what? Like at some point, you were like, hey, look, I had this happen on scene. Let me, or like, I'll just make something up there. What if like you have somebody on? Okay, what if somebody crashes in your ambulance, right? And now you're doing CPR in the ambulance, and someone starts recording. Say you have the body cam footage, or say some EMS agencies have BWCs, or say someone cracks out their phone because they're just a trainee, they're not going to be doing anything, and they take video of that. Listen, that I don't care what you think is going to happen. If you post it, that family is going to see it. It's the law of averages. That family's going to see it. You're going to get
or
absolutely
at least
wrecked. Don't
conduct
do it.
yourself like they will.
Just you're
Right?
out of
Like
your mind if you do stuff like that.
Like there's a possibility that maybe no one will see it, but there's also a possibility
Why
that
would you do
everyone
that?
will see it.
And just a matter of respect for the matter of respect for the patient, matter of respect for the family, matter of respect for yourself. Just don't do it. Listen, you're gonna get rocked, especially if you're a creator. You're going to get rocked, 100%. And even if it's not the family, someone online is gonna wreck you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. Because I think the concept of shadow banning is not something that is thought about by a lot of EMS providers. But talk to us about that a little bit and what that actually means in the modern social media context.
Shadow banning is when you do everything right and your social media platform is like, no thanks. No thanks. And what'll end up happening is, and you'll see it on my pages, and it'll happen for no reason. It'll be because I always say, the phrase I like to say is, the algorithm is not yours to understand; it's yours to obey. And you don't have a chance if you're not beholden to that algorithm. You're not going to get pushed out. And if you can see it, I have on TikTok, I have over 850,000 followers. I have videos that have 6,000 views. I have the next video two down the line that'll have 2.2 million. It doesn't make sense, but shadow banning happens if you do something that, now mind you, as far as social media platform goes, any engagement is positive engagement. They don't care because they're making money. That's what social media platforms think. If they're making money, comment whatever you want.
All that matters.
Negative, it's all that matters. Engagement is engagement. They say no news is good news. That's not what it was. Not no news is good news. Any advertisement is good advertisement. Right? So that's not what'll get you shadow banned. What'll get you shadow banned is when you disobey the algorithm or put out stuff that's contrary to a lot of the stuff that you usually put out, and the wrong audience is seeing it. Shadow banning sucks. It happens across all platforms. Yeah, it's annoying. But listen, for any of you social media platforms that say shadow banning isn't a thing, I see you.
It is. I see you.
I see you.
All right, badge 502, Anthony Christian. Listen, guys, for social media and EMS, about 89% of EMS responders say they use social media at least once a week for clinical education. 25% have posted patient care content at least once. In 2025, the HIPAA Journal talked about how posting even de-identified photos can count as PHI. The FOMED has about a 17 times higher reach in traditional journals. This isn't new anymore, right? FOMED is not a new thing. This is something that's being used. If your providers are not on social media, they're either lying to you or they're not picking up on the best content. Agencies may benefit from having different social media policies and following different people, but certainly Anthony Christian here, Bad 502, is actually at the forefront, the bleeding edge of social media and EMS. So Badge, thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Everybody, make sure you subscribe down below to all of the Overrun social media, as well as all of Badge's stuff, where you can find all over on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the meta suites and all that other stuff.
Or where?
Click, like,
Everywhere.
review, everything.
Click, like,
Just
do all the
do it.
stuff.
That's
Badge, you
it.
have anything to plug?
I mean, not particularly. You know, we work hard over here. We try to have our feelers out into the community as best as humanly possible. That's the best thing I can tell anybody is to, if you grow a platform, use it for good. Do the best that you can with what you got. Work hard. Be kind always. Do not forget to tell somebody that you love them. Say it often. Make it weird. Do the right thing.
Stare at them.
I love that.
Make unbroken, prolonged eye contact.
That's it. That's it. Don't lick your lips. Don't go LL Cool J on it.
Just stare right at them. But thanks everybody for listening. And to Badge again, Ed Bowder and Dan Schwester here for the Overrun. Make sure you subscribe. Check us out on EMS1 and do all the other stuff. Overrunems.com is where we have all our videos. We'll talk to you all next time.
Take care.